Guys, hey, how you doing? Ryan with Premier. Hey folks, Ryan with Premier, and today we're gonna spank some bottoms. We're gonna do some. We're gonna bitch a little bit. Okay, we're gonna try to set some people heading in the right direction. What do I mean by that? Well, this is what I mean by that. This seems to be the year of people calling me and telling me that their tennis or sport court was just ruined by some pavement maintenance company who came in and put black rubber all over their sports court. Let's do a little role play. Okay? I will be the customer calling, and I'll be playing myself as well. Okay, hold on. And action. Hi, my name is Stuart, and I had a company come, and I had some cracks on my local tennis court. So we had this company come, and they filled the cracks, and then then they painted it, but you can still see the cracks. And is there any way to, not see the cracks? And I'm like, oh, hold on. Yeah, Stuart, thank you for calling. That's a great question. Yeah, so can you give me a little bit more, detail about the project and, what kind of, how did they fill the cracks? Did they use, a patch binder? Did they go over it with a membrane repair?
You're speaking Chinese to me right now.
Okay, so when they were done, could you see where the cracks were, or
oh yeah, you definitely could. They're black.
They're black? What do you mean they're black? Wait a minute, they didn't use the rubber like they would use on the roads or the driveways on your tennis court, did they? Please tell me they didn't.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. And then they tried to paint over it, but everywhere where they used the black, it's the paint is just peeling off, and they don't understand why.
Well, you see, Stuart, the rubber is flexible, much more flexible than the surface coating itself. So what happens is, as the rubber expands and contracts with the weather, it's just peeling the material off the top of it.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, how do you go about fixing that? How do we get them to fix that? Is there a way to get that off of there, or because we can't? This is not acceptable. I'm not going to live with it like this.
Well, that's a good point, Stewie. No, there is no way to get it off. Unfortunately, it goes on at 400 degrees. It practically bonds itself to the surface. So, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to either overlay the entire court, or you're going to have a company come in and at least mill off those sections, and then you're going to have the cracks filled the right way. You're going to have to take all that area that was milled, and you're going to have to, get that back up to grade and make that look smooth. And then you're going to have to paint the whole thing again. And by the time it's all said and done, it's probably going to, on this one single tennis court, you're probably going to be in the neighborhood of $30,000.
Holy shit! $30,000! Holy shit!
Yeah, so this is the problem, Stu, is, unfortunately, the company that you hired to come in and do the job was not experienced in sport courts. They may be experienced in filling cracks in parking lots, and they may have looked at your court and just assumed because it's an asphalt court they can use this, but actually they can't. And what they did was just ruin your court. My suggestion to you would be, before too much time gets in between the end of the job and the time that you're complaining, you need to get a hold of their insurance company and go after their insurance company. They essentially just ruined your court, and it's going to need to be really rebuilt.
Oh man, I don't want my wife to hear any of that. Oh, I don't like that. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for the info, I guess.
You're welcome, Stu. Have yourself a good day. And that's how it happens. That's how it happens. If you're a pavement maintenance contractor, stay away from sport courts. Look, I try to get people into this side of the industry all the time. All right? Hold on, my wife's here. Yeah, so I'm just sitting here, my wife pulls up, she's like, there's a cop over there. I'm like, cop over where? She's like, behind your truck. I'm like, what? What? Yeah, there's Popo. Popo. Fucking Popo. It's all Worcester cops. Worcester cops are here. We're in Webster. We're like fucking 15 miles from Worcester. I walked up to him and I said, hey, can I help you? And he looked at me like I had a penis growing off of my forehead. And he said, no, you can't. Why? I said, well, you're on my property. I want to know what you're doing here. And he's like, I'm meeting somebody. I was like, okay, but why are you meeting him here on my property? And he's like, well, it's a non-police matter. And I was like, all right. Like, he's like, am I in your way? I'm like, no, I just want to know what you were doing here. You're all set. Have a good day. I mean, you're fine for now. So, back to what I was saying. Yeah, you don't, if you're in the pavement maintenance business, guys, you got to stay away from the sports courts because you're doing a lot of damage. And look, I am more than willing to try to help guys get into this side of the industry. All right, I'm a big proponent of, getting people into this industry. And a lot of times people will say like, why? Because there's not many people that do it. Why do you want more people to do it and, water the market down, lower the pricing? And that's a great question because, it takes so long to get proficient in doing sports courts. Like, I've been doing them going on a decade now, right? Like, there's no 1 year or 2 year company that is going to come in and threaten to take any work away from me. It's just not happening. Just like my 10-year company isn't a threat to a 20 or a 30-year company. Like, the more you are in this business, the more you learn. It's a never-ending education. There's still times today that I have to call people and say, hey, this is the situation I'm dealing with. What do you think is the best method? There's always new products coming out that you have to stay on top of. If you're not aware of what's out there in the market to help you do your work, then you're just you're hurting yourself, or you're causing yourself a bunch of extra time and aggravation. So, not to go off on a separate tangent, but to digress, like, you gotta not use the hot rubber. I have a bunch of videos up here where I will kind of explain the process. It's I got I think it's crack filling tennis courts for dummies, or SportCourt crack filling for dummies. I got a bunch of stuff up there to try to show you, look, this is how you do it. I had another guy reach out to me on YouTube the other day, and he's telling me that he used a certain type of material, and he didn't, I don't think he coated the court with resurfacer, and he could still see his cracks. And he wanted to know why can I still see my cracks? And this is something that I personally, shut up, crow. This is something that I personally learned the hard way. I was like my second year of doing this. It was like my first like time going out of state, you know. And I went up to some place in New Hampshire, and I tried to get them to use the membrane repair, but they didn't want to. It was going to add like $27,000 to the price of these 2 tennis courts, and they didn't want to do it. So we just used patch binder, and it was upstate New Hampshire where, you know, the days could be in the 70s and the nights are in the 30s, and the ground is moving so fast. And these weren't even cracks at this point. Like, I have a picture, I'll put it in here somewhere. These courts, these were all different sections. These cracks were an inch wide in some places, you know. So this court's floating around on its own. So of course it's not going to, it's the crack filler's not going to work. I mean, so it had hairline cracks almost right away, and the guy was, I wondered, and I said, hey, you know, with all due respect, buddy, here's the email where I went over all this with you, and you said you didn't want to do it. So, but you could tell from that picture, you could still see the cracks. You couldn't see them like from the ground, but when you were right over top, you could see them. You know, like you couldn't see them if you were looking out over the court in any direction. But if you were looking straight down, or if you were standing right over it looking down, then you could see it. And that was my fault because, again, I was self-taught. You know, nobody told me, like, if you're going to do something like that on a red court, you know, using neutral crack filler, that you're changing the background color of the court, which is something that has to stay consistent if you want the color to stay consistent. So you gotta reset the palette, so to say, and you're gonna use a coat of black and go over everything. Boom, you know. And then that black is what hides the cracks. So, you know, I learned that the hard way. And another thing too, as far as cracks go, is if you're going to use patch binder and you're not going over it with like a membrane repair, then you have to have a buffer. You got to be able to buff the cracks out. You know, a lot of guys will go, well, you know, I just scrape it. I scraped it really good. And it's like, yeah, but like you're not doing anything to fill the crack. You're just filling the space in the crack, because you need that binder to come out of the top of the crack and overflow on each side, and then you are using a buffer to kind of just smooth down the transition of that. If you're just filling up your crack to the top, whatever spills over from the V-squeegee or whatever, and then you're running your right away, you're running your scraper over the top of it to scrape off what's there on the pavement, only leaving what's in the crack, almost like a backer rod or something, then you're not really filling the crack. As soon as it gets cold and the ground starts flexing, it's going to break both sides of that, and you're just going to be stuck with this giant clump of binder in between the two cracks. And then that's going to sink and fall, and you've just started the process all over again. So filling cracks on tennis courts is not a simple science. It's not as simple as just grabbing your MA10 and going out there and filling cracks, or using a pour pot and going out there and filling cracks. Now, I read these posts on the forums and shit, and people are like, well, send it, or take that money, baby, and run. And it's like, okay, like, you know, well, they should have known better. They hired us to fill cracks on asphalt, and that's what I did. I filled cracks on asphalt. Taking my money, baby. You know, you're fucking ruining these people's court is what you're doing. You know, because you want to take your fucking $1,200. What'd you get, $1,200 for crack filling? Ooh, I just ruined the reputation of my company. Good thing I got $1,200. Yeah. You know? So I'm becoming more of a thorn in the side of these people, because I'm the one recommending that they sue your insurance company, and they take you to court, or they put a claim in against your insurance company, and then they have me come in and either overpay me to try to fix what you messed up, or we just tear the whole court out in general and redo it. Either way, we win. So, yeah, that's a smug, pompous approach and attitude to have towards this. But you know what? You want to walk around and just fucking ruin people's courts because, you know, take that money, baby. Well, then go ahead. And I'll be the guy standing in the background with the insurance company behind me as we're banging you for a $60,000 claim to replace this person's court. So, you know, I hope the $1,200 was worth it in the end. All right? Get the fuck out of here.